As the economy is opening up, more and more people are spending, which is great, but are we overspending? Let's ask ourselves an honest question. In the area of major purchases, how do we go about doing this? That's our topic today. My name is Edric Mendoza. Welcome to Fundamentals. Okay, when it comes to major purchases, we want to define major first. And in order for us to do that, we'll look at three different areas of major. What do I mean? The first area is major purchase that is within my budget. Number one. The other is major purchase that is now over my budget. So I want to spend on something, but it exceeds the budget I have. The third will be out of budget. It's completely unplanned. It's a purchase I need to make that's major, but I don't have the money. So how do we prepare for each one? That's what we'll unpack. Okay, so let's start with the easiest one. You want to buy something because there's a big sale, and as you're looking at the big sale, you will normally spend maybe various items within, let's say, a 10,000 peso budget that you have set aside for your wants. But in this particular period, you realize, wow, I think I might spend the full 10,000. The good news is, if that major purchase is in classification number one, it's within your budget, go ahead, spend it, no problem, because you've set it aside. Good for you. Major purchase number one, very easy because you had the money for it. But many of us, the reality is we're in major purchase number two. I have a budget, but it's beyond my budget. What do I do? How do I make that purchase? Well, here are a couple of questions. The first question you want to ask is the item you're going to purchase an investment or an expense? What do I mean? If you've heard my past episodes, an investment is something that you buy in order to make it appreciate in value. So you can either make it appreciate in value by selling it and you make money out of that, or you are able to see it wait over time, and as time progresses, you're able to sell it and make money out of it. So that's investment. If that's what you're planning to do in this major purchase, then go ahead. But if it's an expense and not an investment, then you need to ask yourself harder questions. In this expense, is it a want or a need? How will you know if it's a need? A need is something that you will almost literally die without having it. Food, clothing, shelter. So if it's a major purchase beyond your budget, but you need it in that way, then go ahead, make that purchase. But if not, then maybe you want to reevaluate whether it's the right time and whether you really want to have to find ways to fund it at the particular time. Once you've determined whether or not you really should purchase it with that criteria, you now go to the next question for major purchase number two. How can I fund it? Because it's more than my budget. So there are several options that I suggest you look into as you're asking yourself, how do I find a way to fund this? First, you can look at 0% installment. When you look at 0% installment, it basically allows you to, instead of paying, for example, 25,000 pesos for that particular item, and your budget is only 10,000, then you want to say, is there a way I can spread out that 25,000? And in some stores, if you ask them, this cheapest price that you're quoting me, let's say it's 25,000. If they're offering that cheapest price at 0% installment, then it might be worth looking into. But what is key is it's a pure 0% installment. If you ask the store, what if I pay in cash right now? Will that price of 25,000 go down? If they say yes, it's not pure 0% installment. But if they say hindi na po, that's it. That is the cheapest price we can give you, 25,000. And they're allowing you to spread that over a period of time, 12, 24 months at 0%, that's what you want to consider. All right, so that's the first, 0% installment. Make sure it's pure. I like to use that word, pure. If it is pure, then it's an option. Otherwise, what else can you do? You know, there's an old expression, sabi ng lola ko, pag meron kang gustong bilhin, pag-ipunan mo. So that's simple. It could be that for this particular purchase, it is a need, or it is something that is a good investment. Then if you can't afford the spread, the extra amount, save up for it. Wait a couple of months until you're able to accumulate that amount and then make the purchase. The other could be this. You might want to say, okay, I really want to avail of the timing now for whatever that purchase is. Then you might want to ask yourself, are there things I have at home where I can now sell? It might be an upgrade. So I'll sell this to get something better. So that selling price, the money you make from that, can now be used to augment the shortfall in your budget. That could be an option. Look for other things you might be able to sell or do to generate that cash that you need to be able to now make that purchase. Finally, and this is something that you might not want to hear, but we need to hear because it's something that is helpful. Sometimes we just have to say no. Just have to say no. Could it be that that is the lesson for you? Even if it is a need, maybe you can push it back, wait a little bit longer, and then get it when you actually do need it. That is an option. I'm not saying it's the only one, but that is an option to consider for purchase number 2. Major purchase number 3 is it's completely not in the plan at all. For example, there might be a medical emergency that requires you to buy some things. In the pandemic, we've heard of families who've had to find special beds, special oxygen tanks, special things that they need to purchase because it's completely not in the plan, but it is crucial. It's an emergency. This is where, if you've been watching the past episodes, an emergency fund would obviously come in handy. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Kung meron na po yun, good for you. Pero kung wala, this is the only time I would actually encourage you to say, if it's completely out of the plan and there's no budget to take from because it's not in any of the budgets, then this is the time when you can loan. Because it's an emergency, you need to be able to make it happen, then you find a way to fund that and you figure out how to work out the loan after it is done. That is my advice. Now, in this area of loans, I did not give that as an option in any of the other scenarios also, except, and I want to add this for you as a bonus, if it is beyond your budget, but you've considered it as an investment, if you've heard my past episodes about good debt and bad debt, that could be a situation that you can also now borrow against. There's a great opportunity to buy a piece of property, for example, in a good location. You don't have enough money for it, but you have a little bit. Could it be that the option for you is to therefore pull out a loan, fund that so that that investment would not go to waste because those things are rare to come across. Just an example, right? So I generally wouldn't advise loans, but because this could classify as a good loan, it appreciates in value, and obviously it should be an amount you can pay for, then that would be a case you can consider as well for purchase number 2. As we wrap up this episode on major purchases and how to think through it, I want to close with a little bit of a heart story, if you will. One of the things that really impacted me was when I got to interview this tycoon family. And when I asked them about money, I asked, what are the principles you shared to your children about how to handle money? And when they shared that principle, it went something like this. If there's anything we need, no matter how expensive, we will find a way to buy it because it is a need. But when we decide that it's a want, and we've seen that it's a want, then no matter how cheap the price, we will hold on and ask ourselves, is there a better time or a better way to buy it? I like that sharing because it helps us go to the core really of making purchases, whether they're big or small. We want to ask ourselves a very, very honest question. Is it really something I need? And in the way we looked at it earlier, if it is, then I've given you some practical ways to go through that. Otherwise, if it's a want, maybe you want to recheck and ask yourself, is this really the best time? Is this something that I want to really buy right now? Or maybe I can push it back and use that money for something else. I'm Edric Mendoza. Thanks for joining us.